So the Google Store is selling a brand new smartwatch, and I have one right here, but I'm not talking about the Pixel Watch. You see, Google acquired Fitbit, and here we have the brand new Fitbit Sense 2, but that leads to some questions. For Google fans, what can this watch tell us about the Pixel Watch? And for Fitbit fans, how does this compare to previous Fitbit devices, like the original Fitbit Sense? And for general enthusiasts, how good is this new device as an everyday smartwatch? Well, the spec sheets look fantastic. 6-day battery life, all the latest health tracking capabilities such as ECG and heart rate and GPS, a great display, a really nice design, and a lot more that we'll discuss throughout this video. But that's not the full story. There's a negative twist that I want to talk about. But before we get into that, I want to start off with the design of this. This watch looks a lot like the Fitbit Sense, the original one, which honestly was a really nice watch with kind of one main exception. On the left side, we have that physical button back. Previous Fitbit devices like the Versa 2 had a button, and then they got rid of it with the Versa 3 and the Fitbit Sense, and they kind of had like a capacitive touch sensor. You squeeze it, and that was okay, but having a physical button really is just such a better experience in my opinion. It's just something that's more reliable, and you know that you press the button, you get definite feedback. I think it's a big positive here. The device only comes in one size, but I think it's a pretty good size. It's a good compromise that seems to fit well on all wrists, and it doesn't look too big or too small on anybody. Has rounded corners and really kind of squared off display that is very uniquely Fitbit. This comes in 3 different colors. Now, an interesting aspect of the design here, and this is something that, a lot of watches have an ECG, but most watches use the external frame, or they use a button or something like that as your ECG contact. But here, they actually have 2 like half rings around the display that are pretty glossy because they're contacts, obviously, they kind of have to be. And I think it's something that you notice, it takes some getting used to, and I don't know if I really like the way that looks. But on the back, we can see that we have more contacts there. We've got our heart rate and blood oxygen sensor array back here. And on the bottom, we have little icons that tell us this is water resistant up to 50 meters, so you can swim, shower, wash your hands, whatever, get this wet and you don't have to worry about it. We also have quick release straps that, again, are pretty uniquely Fitbit. I think they do a great job. They stay on really, really well. You can pull as hard as you want. They won't come off. But as soon as you push that little button, they come off very easily. But there are plenty of other bands out there, so it comes with these silicone straps, but you have leather ones you can buy from Fitbit, or their sport band. There's different colors, but a lot of different ways you can style this watch to make it look a little more different. Additionally, on the left side, you'll see we have a microphone. On the right side, we have a speaker, so that's going to work for your voice assistant or for fielding phone calls or other things like that. This is a nice feature that we didn't see on a lot of the older Fitbits, like the Versa 2, for example. Now, I showed you a lot of the health sensors, but let's dive into what this actually can do. So, of course, we have sleep tracking, we've got heart rate tracking, we've got skin temperature, ECG to track your heart health in particular, and along with the heart health, of course, your heart rate and your heart rate variability, but also your blood oxygen, your respiration, and all of that kind of ties together. Fitbit makes it very easy in the app to get the big picture of everything, but it does read into a lot of other smaller metrics if you want to know that. So rather than just a big data dump on you, you can go and look at things like, for example, the sleep tracking. They'll give you like a sleep profile, like an animal that doesn't, I don't know if it actually is related to the animal, but you get an animal after you wear this for a couple days, and it'll tell you within this category of sleepers, maybe some different things you can do to improve your sleep and improve your energy throughout the day and just feel better. This also tracks stress. You can manage your stress on here as well with breathing exercises, or you could log your mood. And they have things like an EDA scan, which can do a more complicated thing that we don't see on a lot of other watches. It kind of gives you just a general picture of what your stress is like, and you can track that over time as well. Of course, we have GPS on here for tracking runs, but you guys know, if you've seen my channel before, I love testing the heart rate and the GPS accuracy. Everybody likes to say, oh, it's got a GPS, it's great, but let's see how it actually performs. Okay, so starting off with the GPS accuracy, we can zoom in on this map and see that I started over here where it says 8.38. The total run was 8 miles, but it misregistered that as 8.4 miles, and so it was off by about 5%. And that's understandable, actually better than I expected, considering, as you can see, it didn't register my start until mile 1. Now, for the first mile, it was just presumably using my cadence to estimate the distance, and I guess it did an okay job of that. But regardless, even once it locked into GPS, you can see it really squiggled around a lot, even though I was running directly on this trail. I promise you, I at no point went into the river, but that's something the GPS was showing. So not especially accurate, but again, if you're just doing a casual walk or run, it can be passable. Like I said, off by about 5%. And then if we look at the heart rate sensor, I was actually pleasantly surprised. This one did a pretty decent job. Throughout the entire run, the instantaneous heart rate compared to a known accurate Polar H10 heart rate strap was usually within a couple beats per minute. It really seemed to do a pretty decent job. Granted, this was a steady state run. I didn't push it on any intervals, but I would say in general, it seems to be a pretty decent heart rate sensor. Okay, so that was the heart rate and the GPS accuracy. Granted, this watch is meant to be like for people getting into shape as opposed to like extreme marathon runners that are trying to cut lap times or whatever. So it doesn't need to be super accurate, but I do wish I could test the sleep tracking. The sleep tracking, it's a great feature. I love having it on here, but for some reason, like when I'm asleep, I'm just, I don't know. I wake up and the watch is not on. Somehow I like take it off in my sleep and I don't realize that. It's something I kind of just like started doing in the past couple of months. So I've tried several nights with this watch and I wake up and it says I've worn it for like 3 or 4 hours and then I have to find it somewhere in my bed. Now, let's actually get into the interface right now. I really do like the interface on here. I like how notifications pop up. If you're on Android, you have quick replies. If you're on an iPhone, Apple doesn't let you do quick replies, but you can still read your notifications just fine. Looking at the interface, it's very different from a lot of other watches. And some people expected this to originally have Wear OS 3 on there. Being purchased by Google, it would only make sense that Google's new flagship interface was going to be put on here, but it's not. And there's some benefits and some drawbacks to not having that. So looking at the interface, we've got our watch face. There are so many different watch faces that really utilize this square design. I think, the watch faces look really nice. We can press the button on the, really the only button on here, and this gives us all of our different apps. And it's kind of limited how many apps you have. You really don't have a lot of options here. But the apps that are here, they're robust, they work well. If we double press the button, then we'll get into a kind of a quick menu right here with 4 options, and you can choose what these are, but by default, you get Amazon Alex, I'll just call her Alex, you guys know who I'm talking about, the voice assistant. We have on the bottom, just kind of notifications, we have our Fitbit Pay. This doesn't have Google Pay, it's coming, but it's not here yet. And of course, never buy a device for what's promised to come, because you don't know when it's gonna come, but for right now, it has Fitbit Pay. And then we have our settings on the top. Back to the home screen, of course the button brings you back to home as well. If we swipe down from the top, our quick settings. Nothing new there, just basic controls. Swiping up from the bottom, our notifications. And swiping from the left or the right takes you through a loop of different like tiles or widgets or whatever you want to call them. And it's going to be like your daily activity, your heart rate, your sleep, your body response. You could set a timer, see the weather, different things like that. If you press and hold the button, here you get into a shortcut. For me, I have exercises set there so that I can quickly start a run or something like that without navigating through the interface for that. But just as easily, you could get the voice assistant. So to summarize the interface, it's a lot simpler than what Wear OS 3 is going to be, but it's a lot less Google related right now too. And I'm kind of surprised by that. Being that Google has owned Fitbit for a while now, I don't know why they didn't add more stuff. They're promising to add Google Maps and Google Pay and things like that, but they're not here just yet. In fact, Google Assistant isn't really here yet either. They still have Amazon on there, which is surprising, like I said. And with the different interface, the Fitbit interface that we're used to here, the benefit is that we are getting a pretty long battery life. This is promising up to 6 days or over 6 days of battery, which is something that I don't suspect we will see on the Pixel Watch. I think that's probably going to be about 1 day of battery life. But of course, with this, we are getting the Fitbit app. And this is something that I suspect we will be using with the Google Pixel Watch as well. And so looking at that app, you can see this is something I've always really liked about Fitbit. Their app takes a lot of the data and summarizes it very simply to show you how well you're sleeping, they kind of gamify it, how many active zone minutes you have, what sleep animal you are. There's different things that make it very easy to digest and understand without having to know a lot about fitness or health. You can just look at that, get an idea of how well you're doing, and what more you have to do this week to reach your goals and lose weight or otherwise get healthier. Let's kind of highlight some of the pros and cons here. The pros, we are going to be getting some more googly things, right? We have Google Maps and Google Wallet coming soon, but they're not here yet. Additionally, we have the button back. I really do like having a button on here. I like the Fitbit app. I think it's one of the easiest ways for people to lose weight or otherwise just kind of get into shape. If you're somebody that's a casual, you want to go on a couple exercises a week, maybe 3 times, 4 times a week, and you have a goal, this is going to be a great app for that. They kind of gamify it and has a really proven success record as well. It has a fantastic display. I think the overall design of this watch, I think it looks nice. I think that it's versatile as well. And even though it's one size, I think it's a good size for a lot of people. But there are some drawbacks. Remember the beginning of this video where I said there was kind of a negative twist I wanted to talk about? Since Google acquired Fitbit, this has kind of become like the stepchild of Google, right? Where they're the new parent, and here we're getting a little bit of neglect, in my opinion. I think that we don't have as many apps as I would like to see on here. Google isn't giving as many Google features that I would expect. We don't have Wear OS or really any promise of getting Wear OS 3, and so it feels like they acquired Fitbit, and over time, this line is going to go away. And over time, the Google Pixel Watch is going to be the main focus. That's like the prodigy. That's what Google really wants to promote right now. And so it feels like this device, who knows how long we're going to really get good quality software and app support on here and updates over time. I don't see Google really putting that much effort into this device when they have the Pixel Watch coming out. So in that sense, it kind of is becoming the stepchild. They also have a paywall. This is another big drawback that I'm confident we are going to see on the Google Pixel Watch. When they launched it, they mentioned that when you have Fitbit Premium, you get access to this stuff. And so that means that if you want to see things like more in-depth sleep analytics, if you want things like your daily readiness score, all these really nice features, you have to pay like $10 a month to get that. Of course, you get 6 months free with this, but having to pay it feels wrong when you buy a nice smartwatch and other devices don't have that kind of paywall. We also don't have a rotating part on this watch. Usually I complain about that when watches don't have that, but you don't seem to really need it with here. It's a very simple interface, but what is a little bit of a drawback is that you don't have offline Spotify. Again, the lack of app support, like I said, and the interface, while it is nice and everything's where it needs to be, it feels like a little bit slow. If you swipe through the tiles or widgets or whatever you want to call them, sometimes it is a little bit slow to go between them. But that is the Fitbit Sense 2. To summarize, it's a fantastic device if you're in the right group of people. This is not going to be like an everyday smartwatch that I think has a lot of app potential or software improvements coming, but I think for what it is, it does a really good job of helping people get into shape, track their health, and really just kind of casually work out, right? If you're looking to, do 2 or 3 workouts a week and maybe you just casually ride your bike or go for walks or runs or whatever it is, this is a good way to kind of gamify it and start to get healthy and get to whatever your body weight or your fitness goal actually is. But of course, if you are a marathon runner, a triathlon athlete, triathlete, then you'd want something a little bit more intense, like a Garmin or maybe even an Apple Watch for that sense. But leave a comment below and let me know what you think of the Fitbit Sense 2. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. I'm Mike O'Brien. See you next time.